Okay, so I'm sat here today with Charlie, Will and Eden from LS10. They've been working with the Youth Association for the past 2 months around different sessions around Street Safe. We've today been to visit the Knife Angel in Leeds, and we're going to be going through a couple of questions asking these guys what they thought about the day. So the first question to all of you is, what are the impacts of knife crime to you guys?
Knife crime, it kind of introduces a sense of fear to communities. It's like communities that would have been safe before are now having to fear in day-to-day life about, whether their children are going to be safe, or whether they can go out with their mates to drink or something, because there's that constant thought at the back of their minds that what if this person that I'm talking to has a knife, or what if I'm in danger?
Oh, really good points. Eden, what do you think about what are the impacts of knife crime?
I think that knife crime has an effect mentality and psychology of people. I think it's got its own effects on not only behavioral. I think it's a bit messed up that people have to be careful about going in specific areas. For example, I think the fact that another person lives in another place is just really stupid to want to have a feeling towards killing another person for it. And then I think there's a lot of stuff that is kind of portrayed, and there's a lot of lifestyles that people, that they publicly pretend to love to live, but then personally just absolutely despise it. I've come to the realization, just from not just personal experience, but from knowing other people, that a lifestyle that they've chosen, which is seen as more of a gang or street mentality, is essentially just a hive mind. They do not like it once they're out. And I think the unfortunate reality of it is there's lots of things, such as people who are as impressionable children getting sucked into things like cartels and whatever, and then once they've come out and they've grown out and they've realized this is not the life I want to live, it's either they're stuck to deal with it or they spend the rest of their life in fear. I think once you kind of put yourself into that loop, there's pretty much not coming out. It's weird because it can be hard to evade, but either way, it's kind of it has its own impression, it has its own footprint and effect on you.
Yeah. Thank you for that, Eden. And lastly, Will, what do you think are some of the impacts that knife crime can have on maybe communities as well as people?
Knife crime can have a big effect to the surrounding community, with the fear of living in the location, people basically moving out the houses because they're too scared to live somewhere. Once something's happened in an area, the entire area gets a bad reputation. So it can lead to long-lasting effects on the local community. Obviously, this leading to the area's population decreasing, I suppose.
Yeah. I guess that can kind of lead into an increase in that community, where it's it leads to an increase of carrying a knife around is normal. It kind of leads to a cycle. More knife crime just equals more people carrying knives.
Yeah, no, brilliant. Thank you for that. So my last question for you today, as I mentioned at the start, we've been to see the Knife Angel today. It's a very powerful perspective, but I want to hear what you guys have to say. So, Will, what were your thoughts on the Knife Angel and visiting it today?
The Knife Angel was quite an inspirational piece. It was made within 2 years, and it was completely privately funded. It was the police, 43 British police constables and the Home Office were involved in making the piece, and it was over 100,000 blades weighing over 3.5 tons.
And the amount of knives that have gone into just building that, to say it's 3.5 tons, it's massive, isn't it?
It's insane.
You, Eden, how did you feel seeing the Knife Angel?
I think this is probably going to be a bit iffy, but I think although the message gets across, ultimately I think a statue won't really do much. I think if you really want to educate like a population, yeah, there are ways to like make them aware of something. Like it's not necessarily. I mean, it kind of has the same effect as putting like a giant poster up. And I think if you're putting it in front of people, making them take the time out of that day to like look at it and realize this is the message that's coming across, that can be effective. But again, it's not really as good as going out and speaking to the people. And I think although it did obviously take a lot of knives and stuff like that off people, at the same time, with the kind of security of taking all these knives, you also don't really know who's went out and went like got another, like kind of had their life in danger because of they've taken that knife, like, and then suddenly they're in what they feel is a vulnerable place, or they have been in a vulnerable place. So the message is strong. The idea of the message is definitely still there. I just think it won't have as big of an effect as knife crime as a statistic. I think art has like its own powerful message, and like there's, as I said, there's a point of getting the message across, but kind of it comes to the idea of actually do something about it as like government members or people who are of like higher powers in the general public, and not just having to deal to them kind of putting their own views because you're not working the best you can as like a leader for your own country. If you're not really doing your job, then it's kind of useless to be there.
Okay, thank you for that. And finally, Charlie, what do you think the sort of impacts for you of seeing the Knife Angel were today?
Well, from my perspective, I think that the Knife Angel could be seen as some sort of a symbol, maybe. Perhaps not to criminals, as I think with criminals there's always a certain reason that's most likely not gonna pull them out of the criminal, I want to say, world. And it's like, as Eden said, a statue probably isn't going to do something to criminals, but however, I think it might educate the the normal civilian, because first of all, it's really scary up close with the eyeless eyes, really, and the fact that it's just made out of, like, you can see the machetes. 3.5 tons, was it? Yeah, 3.5 tons of just different knives and machetes and cleavers. I think it would send a message to normal, quotation marks, people, that these are just the knives that have been handed in. So imagine how much more dangerous, like, all the knives that haven't been handed in, which is a lot, an insane amount of on the street, which of course there shouldn't be, but there's nothing we can really do to change that. It's just one of them where it's like, okay, how about we educate the public on how to defend yourself, maybe how to stay out of a situation that may end up in you getting stabbed or robbed or threatened. So yeah, I think it sends a good message to the public about how dangerous knives and people really are.
So to each and every one of you, thank you for today. From our side, we've really enjoyed being able to take you guys to see the Knife Angel today, to take you guys to the Royal Armouries. So as a last little message, I want to say thank you to each of you. Okay, so I'm sat here today with Charlie, Will and Eden from LS10. They've been working with the Youth Association for the past 2 months around different sessions around Street Safe. We've today been to visit the Knife Angel in Leeds, and we're going to be going through a couple of questions asking these guys what they thought about the day. So the first question to all of you is, what are the impacts of knife crime to you guys?
Knife crime, it kind of